Hey y'all, so this is a video to help you step through some of the parts of the assignment called cardiac output. Just so you know, on this assignment, the very beginning of it is pretty basic. And so on part 1, you are going to find different pulse points on your body. So the description describes where those pulse points are. So for example, on your carotid pulse, which is your carotid artery, is this area right here. It says locate the pulse using your index finger and middle finger on your neck and slide your fingers alongside your jawbone down to the depression on the side of your neck. So you won't be able to just barely touch it. You're going to have to kind of press hard. And then I also tend to close my eyes to try to focus, and you're going to feel just a little bump. So I don't know if you can see very well, but if you notice, I have to press fairly hard on my neck area in order to find mine. And then you'll just follow through all those and find all the different pulse points on your body. You'll notice that some of them you'll be able to feel better than others. And if you don't get a feel for all of them, it's okay. I just want you to be able to find a couple of the different pulse points on the body as mentioned in step 1. So if you need to pause me real quick, so you can do that, feel free to. You'll answer your conclusion questions as part of your grade. And then on step number 3 and 4, you're going to find either carotid pulse, as it mentions, or any pulse that you can find really easily. A lot of people use their radial pulse. They're able to find that really well. If you remember, radial is referring to your radius bone, and that bone is on your thumb side of your arm. So you can typically use your index and middle finger and press right there, and that one typically is pretty easy for most people to find. So you're going to do that 3 times where you find your pulse, your heart rate, and record each one of those in step number 4's table as it mentions, and then find an average resting heart rate. So once again, depending on where you're at, you may want to pause, go ahead and find those average resting heart rate for 3 different times, because you will need those for the following steps. So what I am really here for is good old math, because I know some of us are really good at it and some of us struggle, especially whenever we're applying it to something. And so in part 2 is where we're figuring out our cardiac output. As it mentions in this paragraph here, cardiac output is how much blood is pumped by your heart, both ventricles, in 1 minute. In this case, they're using milliliters of blood. It is computed by multiplying your heart rate, which you figured out in step number 4 or 5, and multiplying it by your stroke volume. The stroke volume is the amount of blood typically pumped through your heart in each single heartbeat. So they tell you that your stroke volume is a constant that they've averaged amongst people. It's 75 milliliters per beat. So 1 heartbeat pumps 75 milliliters of blood, and depending on your average resting heart rate, you can figure out how many milliliters of blood your heart pumps in 1 minute. And so that is what your cardiac output is. The amount of blood you pump in 1 minute through your heart, and you get that by timesing the stroke volume, which is the amount of blood your heart pumps in just 1 single beat, and you multiply it by how many times your heart beats in 1 minute. So you simply just do that math and put it here. I'm going to do an example one. And so I figured that no one has a resting heart rate of 180, because that's kind of high, but if you do, no big deal. I chose that number because I figure most of you guys won't come near that. So I'm going to figure out my cardiac output. As we mentioned, here is the equation. So cardiac output is what my unknown is. That's what I'm trying to figure out. So I'm going to multiply it by my stroke volume. Stroke volume for everyone is a constant. It is 75 milliliters of blood pumped through your heart on each beat. Then you simply multiply that by your heart rate. So how many times your heart beats in 1 minute. So as I mentioned before, I'm going to do my pretend resting heart rate of 180 beats per minute. And my number comes out to be, once I do my math, 13,500 milliliters of blood pumped through my heart every minute. So that's quite a large number. Obviously, if your heart rate is lower, then that number will not be as big because your heart is not pumping as, it's still pumping, but it's not beating as often. So that will change per person. No one should come up with the same answer unless you just happen to have the same heart rate, which I'm hoping that not everyone in the class has the same heart rate because I know better. So that's how you do cardiac output, how you find that number. Now that's kind of the easier part. This is the beginning. Then you're going to, as step 7 mentions, using the value you computed for your cardiac output, aka the amount of blood that your heart pumps per minute, complete the following calculations. Record your final answers below in liters. So that's a big one. Do not give me milliliters, give me liters. So I'm going to do my example number, which once again will be different than your number. And so you're going to get different numbers in general, but I'm going to give you an example of what you should be doing. So on this first one, it says calculate the volume or amount of blood your heart pumps in an hour. So if I go back here to my math, I see that my heart pumps 13,500 milliliters in a minute. So the question here is going to be, how much blood does my heart pump per hour? So we have how much per minute, but how much would this be per hour? So all I have to do is I take 13,500 milliliters per minute. And so since that's how much blood my heart pumps per minute, the next question would be, how many minutes are there in an hour? Hope you all said 60. I feel like I'm doing like Dora Explorer stuff here. 60, because there's 60 minutes in an hour. So you're going to take this 1 minute, how much you pump in 1 minute, times it by 60, because there are 60 minutes in an hour. And I came up with 810,000 milliliters per hour. So with that giving heart rate, that's how many milliliters of blood my heart pumps in an hour. So I need to bring that number to liters. That was a big important part, that all these numbers need to be in liters. So if you know this or not, there are 1,000 milliliters in 1 liter of fluid, liquid. And so let's see, if I do 810 milliliters and I want to take it to liters, as we mentioned here, there is 1 liter. For every 1 liter, oh my goodness, there are 1,000 milliliters. And so all you would have to do, if you're imagining, because sometimes I know you do this in chemistry, you do 1 liter over 1,000 milliliters. Since this number is on the bottom and this number is on the top, those numbers or units will cancel each other out. So all you have to do is simply take 810,000 divide it by 1,000. Those units will cancel each other out, and then you should get, using proper calculations, 810 liters. And so my answer to that first bolded problem about how many liters of blood is pumped through my heart in 1 hour would be 810 liters. But once again, you would have to do your own number. Same idea, same process, but just with your own numbers. I'm not going to go through the rest with you because I think you should be able to figure it out. Just so you know, now that you have 810 liters, or you have your number, your amount in liters, you're good. You don't have to change back to milliliters. You have that number to figure out the remaining parts of your assignment. And so you don't have to switch back and forth. You won't have to do that whole divide by 1,000 again. It's already divided by 1,000. So for example, and calculate the volume of blood your heart pumps in a day. Well, let's see. If I have 810 liters of blood pumped through my heart in an hour, I'm going to multiply that by what to figure out how many or how much blood my heart pumps in a day. And so you're simply going to be using the number from here to get your answer here, using the number from here to get your answer here, so on and so forth. Let me see if there's anything else I need to cover in this assignment. You have another additional math problem that you'll have to kind of do down here, and of course your conclusion questions, but that's it on this assignment. I think it's, it does have some math in it, so sometimes people struggle with math. If you have questions, please post on this post in Google Classroom your questions, because you are able to do that now, and I would love to help you get your answers to those questions. All right, I think that's it. See you soon.